All right, I've got a job to do, and that job today consists of I got to dig a hole. And so, you know, if you don't have enough things to do when it comes to maintaining equipment, maintaining the farm, fences, automobiles, then every now and then the farm is going to say, hey, you don't have enough to do, I got something for you. And so what I've got right here, so we're down here at the barn, and this barn sits about 100 yards from the house. And so the reason I bring that up is because our water that we have here at the barn, we have a sink in there, we have a water line that's run out here, we have a water heater out here, and so, you know, we can fill water buckets and things like that. Wife can wash the horse, we have a sink for whatever it is we're doing, that kind of thing. So water is necessary at a barn. But anyway, that water comes from our house. I do not have a separate well out here at the barn to handle our water needs. So we have a line that runs out of our basement about 100 yards through gardens and Pine Island there, natural area, and then all the way across this yard, and then comes into this end of the barn right here. So I think you know where I'm going with this, is that years ago I had some water line issues down here, and I think that I know what this is. I'm not quite sure at this point, but I think that I know. So at one point, and this was years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, at least that, I had a leak underground from that water line that's running out here to the barn, and I put a splice on it. And it's one of those splices where you cut the line, you actually cut a gap out of the line, and then you slide a sleeve over the top of it, and then you get it to go over both ends of the existing pipe, and then you tighten up some couplers. You might have seen those types of splices. And I put one in down here. I thought that it was sitting a little bit further back out here in the yard, but I don't really recall exactly where I put it. But anyway, now I have another leak down here, and I kind of suspected that something was going on. I've got the water coming down to the barn turned off now, but there was a very distinct puddle here earlier, and it was just very obvious what was going on. And I can still kind of put my foot down here, and you can kind of see that it's still very, very wet and soggy down there. You can see how wet that grass is. So, and this is approximately where this line is coming in. I am beginning to think that it might be that splice that I put in years ago. I got to wondering here not long ago. I don't even know why this occurred to me, but I got to wondering. I got to thinking, I wonder how long those splices last, and if I'm ever going to have to replace it again. And then, lo and behold, we noticed this puddle that was down here. So, if this is where that splice is located, then I think I may have answered my question, and they last about 10 or 12 years. But we'll see if that's what it is. But so what I'm going to do here is I've got the mini excavator out here, the Kubota KX040, and I'm gonna start right there about where that bucket is. And because as I was moving some of that gravel out of the way, it appeared to me that it was kind of wet there. So I'm going to start about right there, and I'm going to come back. So that's probably about a 6-foot area. I may be going a little too far on that, because I have a feeling that it's really right here along this grass line. But I'm going to start right there, maybe a little bit closer, and take out that 5 or 6 foot area right there, and see if I can see what's going on down there. I'm just curious to see if that is the splice that I put in there earlier. Let's do it. Okay, so years ago we used to have the electric and the plumbing coming from the house that was coming out here to the barn. We have since moved the electrical to a pole that is way out there on the other side of the riding arena, and you can see the transformer up there. So we now get our power from that pole to the barn. But it used to be that the electrical and the plumbing ran together in the same ditch. And so now I just pulled up the old electrical. So I know that I am right there where the pipe is. And I can now see that pipe exposed right down there. So we are there at it. I've just got to find out now in this little area right here. I might have to do just a little bit more digging very carefully not to pull up this pipe, but I'm right there at it. Okay, so I was curious as to whether or not this was my previous repair that was leaking. And the answer is yes. That right there is the splice. And so I've exposed that, dug around it a little bit more. And just to verify that it is in fact the splice and it's not something on either side of it, I went ahead and turned the water on, and we can see that it is dripping out of the splice. So that is my location of a previous repair. I answered my question about how long they last. I'm guessing anywhere between about 10-13 years. I just can't remember when I did it, but it's been at least that long. And so now I know where it is and what it is, and I have a new splice. So let's get that water turned back off. Let's get that old splice off and get the new one on. When you use these kinds of splices, they actually have a new kind out now. These are pretty good splices, and like I said, that thing lasted, I think, anywhere between 10 to 13 years. But when you use these kind of splices, the problem that you run into is, one, this thing is only maybe about 4 inches long. And so you don't have a whole lot of room on either side of these two pieces to work with. So you can only cut out a very small portion of this pipe. And so what happens with this is, being that you have to be able to lift one of these pipes up far enough away from the other one that you can slide it on, which means you have to dig a pretty big hole. Now, of course, I did this with my excavator, and digging a big hole wasn't going to be a problem, but if somebody's out here with a shovel and they've pretty much narrowed down where their area is, they end up having to build or have to dig out a pretty big hole just so they can get enough leverage on this pipe to be able to flex it. So there is a drawback to using these types of splices. They have a new kind out now where you don't have to worry about that. Now in this case right here, I was able to easily flex it because I dug a big enough hole. But the kind of splice that I have now is different, and it doesn't allow you to have to get all this flex. All you have to do is just cut out enough pipe, and the two of them work without having to move these two existing pipes very far. So anyway, I'll show you that here in a minute. But this is one type of splice, and then I bought another type of splice which I'm going to use this time around. Okay, so I have a new type of coupling that I am going to use. They didn't have these when I put this in years ago. And like I just mentioned to you, with that other type of this other type of coupling right here, you have to have enough flex in this line to be able to lift it up and slide this over one end and then slide it over the other end. But sometimes if you have very limited space and you just don't have enough flex in here, then it's going to require you to dig a bigger hole so that you can get some flex out of the line. Another thing that they've come up with is one of these. And what this does is it expands. So all you have to do is glue it on one end and then just have enough room left on your other pipe where you can expand it right into place. And that way you don't have to worry about having enough flex on this line. So I thought I'd try this time. Although I did have plenty of flex on here to do it, I didn't know that I would. I didn't really know what I was going to be dealing with. So I'm going to use this one this time. And so what I need to do is I need to create enough room on this where I can slide it into place, and then I can extend it over into the next pipe. So this one actually requires a little bit of a larger cutout, and it tells you exactly how to do this, and it has measurements right here on the end. So all I got to do is cut this existing pipe and then what I'll do is I'll clean all this up right here. I'll glue that, slide this into place, and then you see once I have that into place, then I might need to cut just a little bit more off that one. Then I'll just be able to slide this one over to that one. So it makes it a lot easier if you don't have enough room to flex these pipes. All right, I just turned the water on, no leaks. All right, I got that done. I got it all filled back in, made it a little bit of a mess, but that's just the way that it is. You got to start digging stuff up. It's going to be a little bit of a mess, but no big deal. I put a little grass seed along this grass line right here. I have a little bit of crusher run that I kind of keep off in an area at all times. We'll kind of redo this little walkway right here. I've got some extra pea gravel. We always kind of leave stuff like that laying around for things just like this as they come up. So anyway, we'll see how that new coupling works on there. I personally think it's a little bit better design than the other one, in that the other one was that sleeve and it had seals on either end of it, and then you had to put a coupling on either end and you just kind of suck everything together. But this new one, you actually glue it into place on both ends, and then it just kind of has that retractable tube, that expandable tube in the middle. And I think it kind of does away with those seals that we had on the ends of the other one. So I don't know, my thoughts are is that would be a better design. But you know, we'll see. I may be back out here in 3 weeks replacing it. We'll see. I hope not. But anyway, I am glad that's done. That's just one of those things. I got to be honest with you. I had been thinking about that, and the reason that I had been thinking about it is because there was times that I was sitting up in the house, and I kept hearing our pump kick in, our water pump, when there was nothing on. There was no dishwasher, there's no washers, there's, you know, nobody home but me, and I would hear this pump kick on, and that's kind of what got me to thinking, I wonder if I have an issue that's going on with this line that's coming down to the barn. And then that's what got me to thinking about that splice that I had put in, and then that's what got me to thinking about how long those splices last. So my mind was already kind of going in that direction when I was hearing that water pump kick in. So anyway, come to find out that that is exactly what it was. That splice was leaking. So we got it fixed now, and we'll see how long that new splice lasts. On to the next job.